All right, Shalom, 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 giving all praises, glory, and honors unto Yahawah, Bashmi al-Shah, Bashim Kakwadash. As always, double honors to the apostles, bishops, elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect. This is your brother, Yahawah from GMS Atlanta. Back again with another edifying video, another weekly lesson, going over the laws, the statutes, the commandments, the 613 laws given to Moses by the Most High Yahawah to us Israelites. We are not able to keep the 213 laws 100% here in America, being in captivity. But in the coming kingdom, in the full fulfillment of the new covenant, the laws, the statutes, and the commandments will be written in our inward parts, and the men of Israel will be known as kings and priests. We are not fully under the new covenant. We are not fully under the new covenant. The new covenant has been activated through the sacrifice of Yahawah Shai. So we are under grace to keep the laws and to preach the gospel. We know that we're Israelites, the so-called Black Spanish and Native Americans. We know we have been scattered among the other nations, the other heathen around the world, and may look like those nations. And the new covenant will be fully manifested when Yahawah Shai delivers the chosen elect of the Hebrew Israelites. So with that being said, this week, the feasts and the Sabbaths. We'll be going over the feasts and the Sabbaths, which we're actually coming out of a Sabbath and a feast, which is a new moon feast, which, by the way, the new moon is a dark moon. It is not a full moon. The full moon is not the new moon. The full moon is the full moon. That is the halfway point of the month. A dark moon is the new moon. 2 weeks after that, you get a full moon. 2 weeks after that, the moon cycle starts over, and it is a dark moon. So now, dealing with the feasts and the Sabbaths, and I'm going to get right into this. It says, number 153, the new moons are to be observed to set Yahawah's feasts. Exodus 12:2, Deuteronomy 16:1. So let's go to Exodus, the 12th chapter. And this should be dealing with the Passover. Yep. So this is Exodus 12:1. And the Lord Yahawah spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. So this is dealing with the new moon. But when you read Exodus 12:2, it doesn't say anything about the new moon. It just says the months. So this is when you have to understand that we're reading the English translation of the Bible. The Bible in its original language and context was written in what's known as the Proto-Hebrew, the Paleo-Hebrew, or what we call the Lashawan Kodash. All right, the ancient Hebrew. So you go to tools and you search for the word month in the Hebrew, which is the Hebrew word chadash or ha-chadash. Ha-chadash, when you search that word up, chadash, which means the new moon. The new moon or the month. Okay. So the new moon in the month, all right, the month is named after the moon. The word month, mon, in the word month goes back to moon. Like Monday. Monday is moon day. Okay. The first day of the month. So the new moon correlates to the first day of the month. The blue letter is right on this. And it's a lunar month because the moon is designated, I'm sorry, the month is designated by the moon or the lunar cycle. Okay? We go down to the Jacinius lexicon. It says the new moon, the day of the new moon, which is the Hebrew word chadash. The calends. Calends goes back to is where you get calendar from, or the weeks. The calends of a lunar month, which was the festival, a festival of the ancient Hebrews. Okay. On the third calends, the third new moon, the first of the third lunar month. Okay. Other references. Lunar month beginning at the new moon. Okay. So when you look up the new moon, let's look up the new moon. Let's see here. Yeah, it would be good if I could right click and I'll do it like this and just look it up. Okay, let me go back. Copy. Okay, it won't let me save here, so let's go to Google. Paste the new moon, and as you can see, the new moon is a dark moon. It is not. It is not a full moon. Esau's not lying about this. You got Israelites like the IUIC say the new moon is a bright full moon. No, it says in astronomy, which astro is goes back to the Hebrew word, uh, or back to the Greek or Latin, which means star. Like you have the god Astoreth. Okay, so the study of the stars, astronomy. The new moon is the first lunar phase when the moon and sun have the same ecliptic longitude. At this phase, the lunar disk is not visible to the naked eye, except when it is silhouetted against the sun during a solar eclipse. So we've had a solar eclipse this year. What was that April 2024? I believe we had a couple other lunar eclipses. So you can use that as a way to measure what is the new moon. Uh, what's a dark moon? Because basically the moon gets dark when it's covered by the when it's covering the sun. Okay, so the new moon is a dark moon, just so you can have a visual. All right. So now let's go back to the scriptures. So now you have an understanding, a true understanding of what the month is and how it corresponds to the new moon. So now the next scripture is Deuteronomy 16:1. And this is easy. You know, it's easy. It's not really anything hard. to understand. But if you don't never read the scriptures and read the laws and read the Bible and go over it and study these verses, then you'll never have a true understanding of the scriptures. So this is Deuteronomy 16:1. Observe the month of Abib and keep the Passover. Abib means spring. I'll go into it real quick, is the Hebrew word abayab, abayab, which is abayab in the Hebrew. Abayab, which should mean to, says here, fresh, young barley ears, barley, month of ear forming, of the greening of the crop, of growing green, Abib, month of Exodus and Passover, around March or April. Okay? It's also known as Nisan. The name of the month, Abib or Nisan. Okay? So it says, observe the month of Abiyab and keep the Passover unto the Lord thy power. For in the month of Abiyab, the Lord Yahawah thy God brought thee forth out of Egypt by night. Once again, this word month corresponds with Chadash, which we just looked up, which means of the new moon. Okay? So this were just precepts to show you that month and new moon is used to how we observe Yahweh's feast, all right? The feast of Yahawah Bashmi Yahweh Shai, all right? The Israelites' feast days go according to the new moon, not according to the sun like Christmas. Christmas is according to the sun, all right? The winter solstice, uh, it, it sets, and then 3 days later, was that on the 24th or the 25th? They say that that's the sun rising, so that's the son of the Most High, Christ rising up. It's a lot of pagan history behind Christmas. Okay, we just we just came out of Halloween, all right, which is a satanic holiday here in America, a pagan holiday. But we didn't keep Halloween. What did brothers do? Brothers kept the new moon. Matter of fact, since I'm on the new moon, let's see, the new moon. Okay, what day is the next new moon? Which was today, November 1st, 2024, undefined at October 31st, 2024, around 4 p.m. Right. So in the afternoon and then at evening, because the previous night, our days start in the evening. All right. You have certain Israelites that say that the day starts in the morning. No, the daytime when the sun comes up is the morning, but the day starts at evening time. Evening to evening is one day. That's in Genesis, the first chapter. Okay. So from last night, so called Halloween night, to November 1st, it was the new moon. Okay. See, if you just look these things up, Google has the answers. You just have to know how to extrapolate. Okay. That's all. And it goes into the different phases and all of that, it'll give you those approximate times. Okay. So that was Deuteronomy 16 that we read. It's just the first verse. We're just going to go through what they give us here. Number 154. The seventh day of every week is Yahweh's Sabbath of rest and a holy convocation, right? And we're coming out of the Sabbath now. Came out of Sabbath last night, and then the new moon came in to last night as well. So now this is the first day of the week, the first day of the month. So then next Thursday evening will be uh next Thursday evening. You get the calendar. Next Thursday evening will be, and that's the spirit, right? It'll be a Sabbath. Okay. So the evening of the 31st was the new moon. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Thursday evening to Friday evening will be the Sabbath, the seventh day, and then the evening of Friday at the evening time will be the beginning of the eighth day. And then the evening to evening on Saturday, right, will be the beginning of the ninth day. So that's really how this lined up for this month. So if you don't understand the new moon now, then you can use this month to understand. Okay. Because when did the new moon come in? On November 1st, the first day of the month. Okay. So we don't keep the Sabbath Friday to Saturday. Friday to Saturday is not in the scriptures. I'm gonna get I'm gonna I'm gonna get it anyway. Friday to Saturday is not in the scriptures. Okay. But when the new moon comes in, that's how you designate. No matter what so-called weekday it falls upon. We go according to the moon, not according to the Gregorian calendar. So you Israelites, you have to get your understanding up when it comes to Yahawah Bashim Yahweh Shai and this Bible, these scriptures. All right. You don't have 100% truth. You have a lot of truth, but you got to get a wiser understanding on the scriptures, especially if you're going to call yourself priests. So this the next okay, so Exodus 23 and 12. Exodus 23 and 12. 6 days thou shalt do thy work, and on the seventh day thou shalt rest. And now here in America, we're in captivity, and Esau doesn't allow us to even know we're Israelites or keep the commandments. They say that they're the people. So we have to work on the Sabbath for the majority of us. You work for yourself. If you got some kind of freedom in your job, then you'll be able to keep the Sabbath uh, properly. All right, for the most part. But for most of us, we got to work on the Sabbath. That's a part of why I said in the beginning we can't keep all these commandments 100%. But that don't mean we shouldn't know them. All right, all of this is just for knowledge and edification. All right, whenever I do these weekly Sabbath lessons. So it says, 6 days thou shalt do thy work, and on the seventh day thou shalt rest, that thine ox and thine ass may rest, because in the ancient world we had animals. You can't work the animals every day 24/7. They got to eat and sleep too. And the son of thy handmaid, so if you got a servant, Hebrew servant, and then you don't work your Hebrew servant all day. You have, or what you call an employee, right? And the stranger may be refreshed. Okay? In this kingdom, it takes way more than one day to get fresh. You need you work 1 week, then you need a whole week off just to rest. Hey, but the prophecy scripture says that they shall wear out the saints. Okay, so that's Exodus 23 and 12 on the Sabbath, and Exodus 16. Okay, so let me go back to Exodus 16. I think that's Exodus 16 and 23. Excuse me. I should have put 16 and 23 first. Exodus 16 and 23. Right, the Sabbath observed. Exodus 16 and 23. And he said unto them, this is that which the Lord Yahawah had said. Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto the Lord Yahawah. Bake that which ye will bake today, and seethe that ye will seethe, and that which remaineth over lay up for you to be kept until the morning. So let's say you have to cook, and like once again, we're in captivity. We're all in different situations. But the best thing for you to do is to cook the day before and then eat the leftovers on the Sabbath. Okay, that's what this is saying here. Matter of fact, let me get this in the NLT. That's the 16 and 23. And this is dealing with the quails and the manna. Exodus 16 and 23. He told them, "This is what the Lord commanded. Tomorrow will be a day of complete rest, a holy Sabbath day set apart for the Lord Yahawah. So bake or boil as much as you want today and set aside what is left for tomorrow." So that's all you really got to do. Now, what's big now is meal prepping. So you can meal prep a day or two before, or or the day before, and make sure maybe your lunch and dinner goes over to the Sabbath, and then you can meal prep after the Sabbath is over and do it all over again every week. I do that, you know. Yeah, so they put some aside until morning, just as Moses had commanded. And in the morning, the leftover food was wholesome and good. And nothing wrong with leftovers. Hey man, listen, if you grew up where most of us grew up, you know, whole, right? But now, your mother, your grandmother, your aunt maybe cooked the big pot for all the kids to eat. And then instead of her having to cook every day, it's left, what you say, it's leftovers in there. It's leftovers in the refrigerator, right? So the leftover food was wholesome and good without maggots or odor. Now, of course, now after it's you keep it in there for weeks at a time, then yeah, it's gonna go bad. But leftovers from the night before, especially in the refrigerator, they didn't have the refrigerator in the ancient world, but we have refrigerators now, so it could be kept longer than a day. We got freezers. You might can put your food in a freezer. Okay, so that's all. Number 155, keep the Sabbath day holy by making preparation in advance. Exodus 20, 8 through 11. And we all have to do this. I got to do this more. I got to get this into practice. All right. We all have to see how much we can prep before. What's it? Exodus 20 and 8. Okay, yeah. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, and this is a part of the Ten Commandments. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy power. Let's see what the word Sabbath means. And we know, but Scripture says that the priests taught with distinction. So the Hebrew word for Sabbath is not Shabbat. All right, it's not Shabbat Shalom. Okay. First of all, rest in peace. That's what you say to somebody that's dead. Rest in peace. But the Hebrew word is Shabbath. Okay. They actually got the pronunciation of this right.
Strong's H 7676. Shabbath. Shabbath.
Yeah, Shabbath, which means Sabbath, Day of Atonement, Sabbath year, week. Okay, that's just telling you what the word is. Shabbath, same word, Shabbath.
Strong's H 7673. Shavath. Shavath.
And I don't know why they pronounce B as V. There's no V's in Hebrew. It's Shabbath. Yeah, right. To cease, desist, to rest. to rest, desist from labor. Okay, so we rest from labor. That's why you work 5 days and then you get the weekend, and then on Monday you start work all over again. You know. So now, so Exodus 20 and 10, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy power. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days, with the 6 days is not a day as in uh the sun, the sun cycle for a day on earth. 6 days to the Lord, one day is 1,000 years. So the Lord made everything in 6,000 years. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Which it was the Lord gets the credit, but the work was done by the angels. When you read Genesis, the first chapter, that word God, it's not talking about the Most High God, the Lord. Yahawah is talking about the angels, the powers, which were given orders by the Heavenly Father to create it. For example, when a construction team builds any construction project, maybe a building, the workers did the work, but the company gets the credit. So the Lord Yahawah, He made it, He gets the credit, but who do the construct? But the construction workers did the job. I know because I worked for a construction company for years, you know. But the credit goes to the company, so the credit goes to the Lord. All right. So now let's go. Let's go back. Now let's go to number 156. Remove all leaven from all your property by the 15th of Abiyab. All right, that first month, because this is dealing with the Passover. You got to get all the leaven out of your house. See, all these laws are in the scriptures. Okay, now we read this during the Passover. I know different Israelite groups read Exodus 12 and certain uh, scriptures pertaining to the Passover. So this law should be very familiar. Exodus 12 and 14, Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is the Passover. And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and ye shall keep it a feast to the Lord Yahawah throughout your generations. Ye shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. 7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread, which is bread without yeast in it. So no cakes, cookies, pies, Pop Tarts, none of that. Okay? Corn tortillas is fine. Uh, if you can bake, and it's easy, man. You can bake unleavened bread yourself. All you need is some flour, some oil, some water. Mix it together, put it in a pan, some salt, and you can put it in a pan and make like a flat pancake, like flatbread. And it's good too. It says, even the first day ye shall put away leaven out of your houses, anything with yeast in it. For whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day until the seventh day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. So that's why it's a very solemn time during the time of the Passover. And that goes for spiritual leaven too, which I'm not going to get into it here. All right. But that spiritual leaven, having any kind of issues with brothers, the doctrine, you got to get that out of your spirit, man. Pray to the Lord, fast. So then when it comes time for the Passover, you got the spiritual leaven out of your system, that mental leaven out of your system, and you get that yeast and that physical leaven out your house. Okay? So now let's go to number 157. On the 15th day of Abiyab, we must teach our children the story of the Exodus from Egypt. Exodus 13 and 8. So this is what we go over when we go through the Passover scriptures, mainly with the brotherhood, but of course, brothers with families, you know, we teach our children, wives, you know, depending on where you're at with your family in the spirit, you know, you let your sons and your daughters know that's a law. Exodus 13, Exodus 13 and 7. Unleavened bread shall be eaten 7 days. So that whole week you eat bread with no yeast. And there shall no leavened bread be seen with thee, neither shall there be leaven seen with thee in all thy quarters. So your household. And thou shalt show thy son in that day, saying, This is done because of that which the Lord Yahawah did unto me when I came forth out of Egypt. And we keep this for a generation, for generation upon generation. And soon the new uh, uh, exodus of Egypt is coming when we're taken out of the spiritual Egypt, which is America. All right. Once the elect are delivered by Yahawah Shai, we're going to celebrate a new Passover. Because this deliverance that's coming is going to be way greater than what happened in the ancient world. Verse 9. And it shall be a sign unto thee upon thy hand, and for a memorial between thy eyes, that the Lord Yahweh's law may be in thy mouth. For with a strong hand hath the Lord Yahawah brought thee out of Egypt. Thou shalt therefore keep this ordinance in his season from year to year. So every year we keep the Passover. All right. Number 158. We must eat unleavened bread from the 15th through the 21st of Abayab, Exodus 12 and 18. I think I read that too. Okay, I just went through a few other scriptures. So let me read it. Exodus 12 and 17. And ye shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in the self same day have I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. So Israelites are also warriors, armies, clans, families. Therefore shall ye observe this day and your generations by an ordinance forever. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at evening. Why? Because evening is the beginning of the day. Ye shall eat unleavened bread until the 120th day of the month at evening. So the Lord keeps repeating himself. We don't eat the leaven for a whole week. Number 159. The first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, Passover, is a Sabbath of rest and a holy convocation. Cooking may be done on a feast day Sabbath, but not on the weekly Sabbath. Okay? So just the new moon, Exodus 12 and 16, which we're there, and we read that, but I'll read it here. And in the first day there shall be an holy convocation, and in the seventh day there shall be a holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat. That only may be done of you. So the only work that you can do on certain feast days, which this is the Passover, is you can cook. But you don't do no work, no job. You ain't hooking your oxen up to plow the land, nothing like that. Okay? No yoke of oxen plowing the land on that day. Number 160. The seventh day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, Passover, is a Sabbath of rest and a holy convocation, which is another gathering, which we just read in Exodus 12 and 16. We must, number 161, we must count 50 days from the day after the first holy day Sabbath of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the count of Omer, to the Feast of Weeks. So let's read this Leviticus 23 and 15, which the Feast of Weeks is what we know as Pentecost, which Pente means 50 days. So this is Leviticus 23 and 15. And ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, this is after the Passover, from the day that ye brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. I'm going to read this in the NLT so it'll be a little bit more clear. Exodus 23 and 15, the festival of harvest. So it says, from the day after the Sabbath, the day that you bring the bundle of grain to be lifted up as a special offering, count off 7 full weeks. Keep counting until the day after the 7th Sabbath, 50 days later. Then present an offering of a new grain to the Lord. All right, so that's what you got to do as far as the Pentecost or the 50 days or the Feast of Weeks. Okay, and it said to read, the 16. The Feast of Weeks, the Feast of Weeks, Pentecost itself is a Sabbath of rest and a holy convocation. Leviticus 23 and 21. So let me just read down to 21. So verse 17. For wherever you live, bring 2 loaves of bread to be lifted up before the Lord Yahawah as a special offering. Make these loaves from 4 quarts of choice flour and bake them with yeast. So this is no longer the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Now we can put yeast back in our bread because the crops are growing. They will be an offering to the Lord Yahawah from the first of your crops, along with the bread. Right, the first crops of that year grown. So now you can make full bread now. Along with the bread, present 7 one-year-old male lambs with no defects, 1 young bull, and 2 rams as burnt offerings to the Lord Yahawah. These burnt offerings, together with the grain offerings and liquid offerings, which, your drink offerings, will be a special gift, a pleasing aroma to the Lord Yahawah. Then you must offer 1 male goat as a sin offering and 2 one-year-old male lambs as a peace offering. So the Lord is very specific on how he wants things done. Verse 20, the priest will lift up the 2 lambs as a special offering to the Lord Yahawah, together with the loaves representing the first of your crops. These offerings, which are holy to the Lord Yahawah, belong to the priest. So the priests got their portion. Okay? I think we went over that last week. Verse 21. That same day will be proclaimed an official day for a holy assembly, which is a holy convocation, a day on which you do no ordinary work, the Sabbath. This is a permanent law for you, and it must be observed from generation to generation wherever you live. Which it says this celebration, called the Festival of Harvest or the Festival of Weeks, was later called the Festival of Pentecost. See Acts 2 and 1. It is celebrated today as Shavuot or Shavuoth. Okay? So Pentecost and the Feast of Weeks is the same feast, and it's a Sabbath. So now, number 163, the Feast of Trumpets is a Sabbath of rest and a holy convocation. Leviticus 23 and 24. So I can read down now. So let me read verse 22. When you harvest the crops of your land, do not harvest the grain along the edges of your field, and do not pick up what the harvesters drop. Leave it for the poor and the foreigners living among you. I am the Lord Yahawah, your God. So you have to leave first of your crops. You got to leave for uh, or the crops in general. Leave for the poor. All right, the festival of trumpets, which is the memorial of the blowing of trumpets. Leviticus 23 and 23, the Lord Yahawah said to Moses, give the following instructions to the people of Israel. On the first day of the appointed month in early autumn, which is where it says in Hebrew, on the first day of the 7th month, this day in the ancient Hebrew lunar calendar, Israelites, we had a lunar calendar and we had a solar calendar for the day. It occurred in September or October. This festival is celebrated today as Rosh Hashanah, all right, the Jewish New Year. So, and the word September means what? 7. Okay, it means 7. October means 8. And now that we're in November, November means 9. December means 10. Okay, so it says, you are to observe a day of complete rest, a Sabbath. It will be an official day for Holy Assembly, a holy convocation, a day commemorated with the loud blast of a trumpet. All right, so you blow the trumpet on the memorial of the blowing of trumpets, which is in the 7th month. Verse 25, you must do no ordinary work on that day. Instead, you are to present special gifts to the Lord Yahawah. So you keep that day, you have a feast. Okay. I know brothers keep, keeping them on the camps, even the different schools. Okay. All this is our heritage. Okay. We ain't keeping Christmas and Halloween and, going to church, Christian church on Sunday. No. Once we get the true understanding of the Bible, when you read the scriptures, this is what the Lord told his people to do. You don't find Friday, Saturday, or Sunday church or Friday, Saturday, Sabbath in the Bible. Okay? You find specific instructions, laws, statutes, commandments to keep. Okay? Now let's go to 164. The Day of Atonement is a day of complete fasting. Leviticus 16:29 through 31. Which you don't eat anything. You don't drink anything on the Day of Atonement. Leviticus 16:29 in the NLT. On the 10th day of the appointed month in early autumn, which is the 7th month, you must deny yourselves. Right? It says what? Or you must fast. Neither native-born Israelites nor foreigners living among you may do any kind of work. So if you're an Israelite in the tribe of Ephraim, you don't do anything. And if you're a visiting Israelite of the tribe of Reuben, you don't do any work. This is a permanent law for you. On that day, offerings of purification will be made for you, and you will be purified in the Lord's presence from all your sins. Right. You atone for your sins in that day. Right. It says, or atonement will be made for you to purify you. It will be a Sabbath day of complete rest for you, and you must deny yourselves. This is a permanent law for you. So let me go back to the KJV. Yeah. So it says, and you shall afflict your souls. Okay. So you don't eat, you don't drink anything. All right. No water, nothing. No bread, no sandwich, nothing. Okay. Let's see. 165. The Day of Atonement is a Sabbath of rest and a holy convocation. Leviticus 23:27 through 32. Let me read 166. The first day of the Feast of Tabernacles is a Sabbath of rest and a holy convocation. Leviticus 23:34 through 35. Number 167. The last great day is a Sabbath of rest and a holy convocation. Leviticus 23 through 36. Then it says, number 168, dwell in booths, sukkahs, temporary dwellings, or what we call tents, during the Feast of Tabernacles, Leviticus 23 through 42. Number 169, a sukkah must be built before the Feast of Tabernacles. Leviticus 23 through 40. So let's go to Leviticus 23, going back. So Leviticus 23, all right, the festival of shelters, which is tents or booths. I'll start at verse 33 and read down. Leviticus 23 and 33. This is in the NLT. And the Lord Yahawah said to Moses, give the following instructions to the people of Israel. Begin celebrating the festival of shelters, which is the festival of booths or tabernacles. It says this was earlier called the festival of the final harvest or the festival of ingathering. It is celebrated today as Sukkot. Okay? It says begin celebrating the festival of shelters or the Feast of Tabernacles on the 15th day of the appointed month, 5 days after the Day of Atonement. The Day of Atonement was on the 10th day. So the 15th day would be 5 days later. The festival, this festival to the Lord will last for 7 days. On the first day of the festival, you must proclaim an official day for a holy assembly when you do no ordinary work. So that's a Sabbath on the first day. For 7 days you must present For 7 days you must present special gifts to the Lord, Yahawah. The eighth day is another holy day on which you present your special gifts to the Lord, Yahawah. This will be a solemn occasion, so another Sabbath, and no ordinary work may be done that day. Verse 37. These are the Lord Yahawah's appointed festivals. Celebrate them each year as official days for holy assembly by presenting special gifts to the Lord. Burnt offerings, grain offerings, sacrifices, and liquid offerings, each on its proper day. So, so that's a week long feast, week long festival. These festivals must be observed in addition to the Lord's regular Sabbath days, and the offerings are in addition to your personal gifts. The offerings you give to fulfill your vows, and the voluntary offerings you present to the Lord Yahawah. Right, this is one of those days where it says 3 times in a year you don't present yourselves. Um, no male shall present themselves empty to the Lord. So you got to bring something to the gathering. Verse 39. Remember that this 7 day festival to the Lord, the festival of shelters or Feast of Tabernacles, begins on the 15th day of the appointed month, after you have harvested all the produce of the land. So this is at the end of that summer harvest. You have a feast at the end of the first spring harvest, which is Pentecost. Then you have at the end of the summer harvest, let's say your summer squash finally grows in. What we would do in the ancient world is we would have a feast on this month and have a feast of tabernacles. It says the first day and the eighth day of the festival will be days of complete rest. So the first day and the eighth day are Sabbaths. On the first day, gather branches from magnificent trees, which is what it say, gather fruit from the majestic trees, palm fronds, boughs from leafy trees, and willows that grow by the streams. Then celebrate with joy before the Lord Yahawah, your power, for 7 days. You must observe this festival to the Lord Yahawah for 7 days every year. This is a permanent law for you, and it must be observed in the appointed month from generation to generation. For 7 days, you must live outside in little shelters. Yeah, tents. All native born Israelites must live in shelters, which, depending on what tribal land of Israel you're in. This will remind each new generation of Israelites that I made their ancestors to live in shelters or tents or booths, tabernacles, when I rescued them from the land of Egypt. I am the Lord Yahawah, your power. So Moses gave the Israelites these instructions regarding the annual feast of the Lord Yahawah. So we go into Leviticus 23 all the time. All right. Let's go for the next one, the last one, number 170. Sound the shofar on the Feast of Trumpets, Numbers 29 and 1, which the shofar is the ram's horn. Right? You see here? So this is the ram's horn. We also got now this here is an actual ram's horn. Okay. The shofar. But then you also have a Yemenite shofar, which is the one that swirls around. It's uh, a different animal. Okay. So all right. So that was Numbers 29 and 1. The offerings of the festival of trumpets, Numbers 29 and 1. Well, let me read it in the KJV. All right, Numbers 29 and 1. And in the 7th month, the first day of the month, ye shall have an holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work. Once again, it's a Sabbath. It is a day of blowing the trumpets unto you. All right. And when you look up what that word trumpets in the Hebrew, let's see what it says. Trumpets, which is tharawai. Tharawai. This means the shouting alarm, sound of tempest, alarm of war, blast from March, shout of joy with religious impulse, shout of joy in general. So yeah, the blowing. Okay. The blowing. But what do we blow? What do we sound the alarm through? Or what do we use to sound the alarm? Um, we use the ram's horn, which is the shofar or let me go back. The shofar. Now the word for shofar in the Hebrew is shawapar. Okay? A shofar, or in the Hebrew, shawapar. Shawapar is an ancient musical horn typically made of a ram's horn, right? The ram's horn, used for Israelite religious purposes. Okay, like the modern bugle, and that's a bugle. All right, but the ram's horn, right, would be a horn. Okay, let me see something. Yeah, and see that's the picture of the shower par there, the shofar there. So that's it. That's it for this week. Going over the feast and the Sabbath. A lot of this was information we already knew, but these are the laws and the commandments we got to keep, and there's nothing wrong with going over them, putting out these Hebrew words, and getting a better understanding um, to understand our culture. Because this is our culture to to go over these laws and keep these laws, right? So with that, I'm gonna end it here for this week. Lord willing, I'll be able to do this next week again. So I want to give all praises, all glory, all honors to Yahawah, by Hashem Yahushua, by Hashem Kodash. As always, double honors to the apostles, the bishops, elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the 144,000, the rest of the hopeful elect. And once again, like I said, hope this is edifying. And the next time I say Shalom. and pray for Yahawah to return soon. With that, I say shalom.